Thank you. Good afternoon. I have a group of 5 young people here from the University of Guyana who said to me this morning this exact same thing. And so I spent the whole morning basically de-theorizing my presentation, which is what I was doing. So don't dig no blues, you're not getting no theory, we'll just try and I also try and cut it down because I'm going to make it available online. And all of y'all that's saying you want time and you read it online, I hope you go read it online, right? So cool. All right. Hopefully this works. No. I'm a creative artist. I can point words. You didn't take on yet? Yes. Your thing is not allowing me, but this is not. Okay. All right, well, let me tell you, I know this by heart, so let me just tell you about this project. Guyana just came out of a national election in 2011, November 2011, and the University of Guyana had been doing a number of things with young people that I teach and some I don't teach. 3 things we did that have to do with social media. And I'd like to say off the top of the hat that this is a new area that we have not done enough work in. So everything that I say here is preliminary and tentative because we are now beginning to understand the technology, what it does, what it can do. And this is what I want to present to you this afternoon in a nutshell. We did 3 projects. The first is that we had my research students do a project in which they were tracking everything that was happening politically online from 2010, October 2010, to June 2011. Now, the election was actually in November 2011, but it should have been called in April 2011. But because they had to graduate, they had to actually stop the tracking and write up their projects in order to graduate on time. We do have that publication. We just created one in this little book here called Virtual Politics. And it just came off the press yesterday, so we're quite proud of it. The Internet and Guyana's 2011 election. This is a book of student research. It's not faculty research, but this is their research in which they looked at online blogs. They looked at what was the comments that were coming off of news media pages. They looked at Facebook comments. They looked at political websites. What else they looked at? Yeah, basically those things. And there are 8 studies in here that speak to what people were saying and doing during that election. The next thing we did was we conducted a baseline study on how new media was being used in how people plan to use new media during the election. And a lot of people said, no, we're not going to use new media because we've not used it before, it's not accessible to us and things like that. We'll get down to those questions in a little bit. The next thing we did, we got funding from a project and we launched this thing called Generation G, which is what I really wanted to show you guys. Generation G was a social media project that was supposed to help stimulate young people's participation in the election because data from the last about 7 years had indicated that young people do not necessarily get engaged in the political process in Guyana, and I think this is a worldwide trend. And so we wanted to see if using this technology, which is actually personal and could reach them in a way that they understood, could make a difference. So the core was, here you go, works now. Right, so I'm going to skip past all of this, right? Right, so the core was, I'm going to come back here in a second. So this is what I'm explaining to you now. The core was this website here called Generation G. And it had, as you can see, the website, an SMS messaging system that came off of it. So we actually were blast mailing young people straight off of the website to their cell phones. Don't ask us how we got the cell phone numbers, because we can't tell you. The telephone companies didn't give us, they wouldn't, right? But we got them, we generated them, and we were sending messages straight to cell phone numbers, telling people things like, are you going to vote? You should vote, when you should vote, why you should vote, crucial dates and things like that. And we were also had a Facebook page, which went up to something like 5,000 and about 5,500 members by the time we had actually closed the project down in December. But we found that even though we were doing all this social media stuff, that we still needed to augment it with all the traditional media. So we went on, after a while, we went on television and radio and in the press. And that's what we did. Now, I'm going to go back a bit because I'm skipping, but I wanted to make a point about this question of the Caribbean and how the proliferation of media in the Caribbean, new media, because it's a really important point when we start to think and get excited about what the possibilities are, because a lot of people don't have access in the region to these media, right? So internet users is just about 28.7%. This is from the World Web Stats, and there's a range. There's a big range. I got that this morning, cut and pasted straight from the website. There's a range. This is for the whole Caribbean. So you have a range of some countries having like 3%, according to them, and some countries having up to about 90%. Okay, so it's a wide range. So you see it's variable across the region. This may not, the penetration rate. You have Facebook, 15.0% penetration.
That population figure cannot be correct.
All right, so.
1.4 million for the Caribbean. Just Trinidad alone is 1.
Okay, it's what?
And Jamaica is 3. The 1.4 million.
Okay.
Something is wrong.
I probably cut it. Yeah, 14 million. Sorry, there's a 4 missing from the top. It's 14 million, not 1.4 million. Yeah. So 15% penetration for Facebook users, and cell phones are about 40% to 168%. In some countries, everybody has a cell phone apparently, and some people have 2. And Anguilla apparently was the country that was and of course there's variable bandwidth. So access is a problem. It is not something that can be easily surmounted, and everybody does not have access to this technology. So when we are getting excited about what it can do and what it can't do and how fast it can do it, and looking at it as the panacea of all things, that's not necessarily so. And one of the questions that I want to raise is how, if it actually transforms or structures anything, or rather represents and reframes the old system, or undergrids it and actually reproduces it. There's also an age differential. Most of the users are between the ages of 14 to 35, young people. But what we noticed in the election in Guyana was that during coming closer to the election period, that age, we had that spread. And it went up to people about, in the ages of, up to the ages of 55, started to actually climb. So there was information-seeking behavior from the older cohort just around the time of the election. They were actually going on our Facebook page and on other people's Facebook pages, their friends and family, and looking for information about the election. So, and this happened not only for people outside of Guyana, but inside Guyana. So I'll explain to you why I think that was really important in the outcome, the stable outcome, and I would say stable in a little bit. More females than males online, and there's a positive relationship between education, social and economic status, and access, right? Still urban. Most people who are online are still in urban areas, and so those people in geographically distant places, even though this is being overcome more and more, there's still more people, many more people online in an urban setting than in the country, right? So I talked about this just now when I went to this. So I was talking about the evidence of Guyana. You probably can't see this very well. But this was the 2006 election, where a small number of people said yes, 6.2%, people said yes, we will use the internet to do this. Now, usually when you ask people to remember data, remember things from this far back, you have problems. So I just want to put that in, that these questions were asked last year in April. You're asking people to remember what they would have done in 2006. So you have some problems there. But in 2011, we see that figure going up to 20-something%, right? And we just got the data back. I wasn't able to plug it in today, but we just got the data back about what people actually did online, and it was upwards of 31%. So we are seeing a lot more use of this media, this technology and new media in elections, but only for certain things. Now, the book that I just showed you, Virtual Politics, this book presents the data from the surveillance that took place between October 2010 and June 2011. And some very interesting things we found, especially with regard to the use of websites by political parties. And I want to speak to this question because of basically Tennyson's point this morning about, maybe it's a way we have to really rethink how political parties function. They have to think about how they function now in the face of people being able to actually look at them, respond online, quickly spread something about what's going on. So it's not like you could just hide behind a rock and do your thing anymore. It's just that more people are not able to do this. What we found for political websites, we looked at 4 of them. The ruling People's PPP, People's Progressive Party, Civic, then PNC, which is now merged into the APNU, which is an alliance for change, which is a coalition of 11 smaller parties, the AFC, which is the Alliance for Change, and the TUF, which did not have a website. What we found is that since the 2006 election, only one of these parties had ever gone back to their sites to upgrade anything. That's the first thing. So the PPP had not gone back to their official website and done anything with it, right? Neither did the PNC.